Before we start this video, I want you to get this video to 500 likes and 50 subscribers in order to publish more. In this chapter, while Lin stared at the fallen angel Alice, a sense of astonishment filled him. Her condition reminded him of someone who had sacrificed his life to save the world and its people, yet was crucified by those he had saved. But Alice, lacking the purity and goodness of that man's heart, was much easier to control. Lin was somewhat impressed by the new, unsettling appearance of the former saint, or rather, his fallen angel. Lin realized that Alice, instead of being forced to die, now preferred to watch others meet their end. And this was somewhat true. As the scene shifted, a multi-handed hybrid Goblin was flung from a building that collapsed moments later. Avery had used her powers to do this after the Goblin threatened her. She still couldn't believe that the sword saint had actually betrayed humanity and become a fallen angel. Otherwise, she would not have ended up in this state. Her clothes were torn, revealing more than she wished. Avery wanted the fallen angel to wait until she became a grand sorceress. She was determined that once that happened, she would overcome everything. She tried to escape, delving deep into the castle. But at that moment, she saw a small goblin trembling as it pulled out a knife. It couldn't attack her, instead pleading with her not to kill it. It swore it would never harm another human, and begged her to let it go. Despite Avery's disgust, she couldn't bring herself to hurt a child, so she told the goblin it was lucky this time, but warned it not to appear before her again, or else, next time wouldn't end the same way. Avery turned away in disgust, carrying a bag on her shoulder. The goblin child fell silent, then slowly began to laugh, with a horrifying sound. Avery felt annoyed and disgusted by how the filthy goblin had delayed her from meeting her grandfather in a secret passage. Even though she was ready to kill him, he was still a child. But everything changed in an instant. Suddenly, she felt something slide down her throat, something sharp and cold. The dagger. The little goblin had slashed her throat, barely missing a vital point. Avery screamed in pain and disbelief. She had saved this child while he was crying, and he had faked everything just to stab her. Her legs gave way as she fell to the ground, watching red flames glow around the boy as he laughed and mocked her, calling her his little sister. It was then revealed that the boy was none other than Lin himself, who had used a transformation technique to disguise himself as the child. Now Lin taunted Avery, telling her she should never trust a goblin, not even in a million years, and that she would now face the consequences of her actions. Lin realized that the girl was too arrogant, and her arrogance had led to her downfall. Lin had been searching the castle for a spellbook, but he discovered something much more appealing: mature, captivating woman. And now, what he had was far better than any book could offer. Avery, trembling with fear, revealed to Lin that the spellbook he wanted was in the castle's secret room, and she could guide him there. She pleaded with him to let her go and not eat her, but Lin clarified his intentions. He wanted to eat her, but not in the way she was thinking, adding, "It will be a wonderful experience." Lin leaned close to Avery's face, asking her why she was so scared. Wasn't she the one who once sought to capture the sword saint and exterminate the entire goblin clan? Avery, completely exposed, admitted it had just been rhetoric to gain support. That wasn't her true goal. She began to beg the goblin leader to save her, but as Lin's expression quickly changed, he felt disgusted. He knew she was lying. It became clear to him that Avery could not be trusted. Not even a little. A demonic gleam shimmered in Lin's eyes, and Avery realized that something terrible was about to happen. Suddenly, Lin pounced on her, grabbing her hands and pinning them to the wooden wall. He calmly began to grasp her legs, telling her she still had many life lessons to learn. According to Lin, it was a good thing Avery hadn't become the city lord. Given her skill at lying, people would surely suffer. But even as Lin uttered those words, his actions didn't match them. He began to touch places the girl hadn't even imagined. As he continued speaking, a notification appeared in his system, informing him that his attack, defense, and health had increased by 80, 100, and 200 points, respectively. Once everything was over, Lin began to dress himself, leaving the lady completely exposed. Even he couldn't believe how delicate Avery was, and how everything shattered with little pressure. Lin laughed to himself. noting that the city lord's precious treasure was a bit weak. But at that moment, he heard a strangely familiar voice angrily shouting at him, accusing him of defaming his granddaughter. Lin turned and saw that it was none other than Avery's grandfather. The old man rushed towards him with insane speed, raising a swirling tornado. Lin realized he had no time to waste, so he braced himself and let out a powerful roar. The two clashed at close quarters. Dust and smoke filled the air, but Lin, still full of stamina and exhibiting great agility, jumped away in time to protect himself. After the dust settled, Lin confirmed his suspicions. The old man was the cause, and now he held a massive race gun in his hand. A clear wind race technique, which Lin recognized immediately. It was a critical decision, but it wasn't over yet. The old man roared that he would exterminate all the filthy goblins, calling them evil, disgusting creatures unworthy of living. He rushed forward, running with his hand out, even mimicking Naruto's stance, as if he were the true hero of this story. But no sooner had the old man launched into the air, than something flew towards him with terrifying speed. It pierced the ground and exploded into him, pushing him away and forcing him to cough up blood. The man immediately recognized the weapon. It was the sword used by the Sword Saint. It had been thrown from the building. He fell to the ground. As he fell, he saw Alice, who hadn't yet completed her attack. A faint red aura emanated from her blade as she prepared for the next strike. Without hesitation, the sword flew through the air, piercing the old man's chest and pinning him to the ground. He collapsed unconscious. It was then revealed that the fallen angel, Alice, was now dressed even more revealingly than when she was the Sword Saint. Even Lin smiled as he looked at her, amazed that the transformed version of the saint could be more terrifying than before. The old man didn't even have time to cast a single spell. He was annihilated in an instant. As Lin approached her, Alice asked if there was anyone else she needed to kill. Lin smiled and told her, "It's almost over for now. Things should calm down a bit." The scene then shifted to the secret chamber's library, where Lin was walking beside Averia. She was in awe. Hundreds of advanced magic skills were stored inside, not to mention 10 types of high-level spells, 3 super magic books, and even a universal spell. Lin laughed and said if she liked it that much, she should take everything. The lady was overjoyed to hear that. She immediately bowed and thanked her master, promising that once she mastered her studies, she would serve him better and do as he commanded. But at that moment, Lin turned and noticed something else. Gold coins and treasures were falling to the ground, forming a large pile. And so, friend, today's chapter concludes. Stay well.